Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to jump into the Traveler Core Rulebook again, and we're going to look at mental characteristics. We took a look at the physical characteristics, now we're going to look at mental. We're going to see how important they can be in a game like Traveler, skill-based game. Your mental characteristics are your intellect, your INT, a traveler's intelligence and quickness of mind, education, EDU, a measure of a traveler's learning and experience, and then social standing, SOC, also called SOC, a traveler's place in society. So these stats, like the physical characteristics, live and die on the characteristic modifier. So if I have a high education, I need to make an education roll. My education is a 12. I can go ahead and add a +2 to that, and that helps me get into different careers and stuff too. So it's important in Traveler, in my opinion, as you're doing a session 0, that the players understand kind of what they want to be and know what they're rolling for. So if you're playing a character that's going to be a physical athlete, they're going to be a star athlete, and they're going to get fame and fortune that way, you're going to want to lean heavily into your physical statistics as well as your social statistic, your SOC. But if you're not playing a physical character, you want to play a character that's more rounded, you're going to want to shoot for the middle. You're going to end up around 7, and you're going to have to decide where you want to put your stuff. Interestingly, I don't consider the Traveler really has a dump stat. D&D does. D&D absolutely has a dump stat, looking at you, charisma. And then when they added comeliness, looking at you, comeliness. So we had 2 for a while, and yes, we do use comeliness at my table. I'll do a video on that sometime. But you don't want to, in Traveler, use any of these as dump stats. They're all important. Your physical ones, that I discussed before, build up your endurance and your air quote hit points unquote for how long your character can stay active and alive. Whereas your mental ones are the ones that activate a lot of your skills and social interactions. And I had said in the physical characteristics, I consider dexterity to be a super stat. In mental characteristics, I believe social standing is a super stat. You say, wait a minute, Soch can open or close so many doors. If you decide you're going to build this superstar athlete, but you're going to use Soch as your dump stat, and he's only got a 3 Soch, there could be problems with him making connections and important people that he would know and otherwise getting involved, which could hurt his athletic status. On the other hand, if you're doing a character that leans more toward the intellectual, social standing can be important for helping you get things like funding, patrons, jobs, whatever you're looking for. So Soch can be very important. Soch is also a very mutable skill in my opinion. Now, we're going to take a look at social standing and nobility. And this is on page 11 of the Player's Handbook, of the Rule Handbook. Social standing and nobility. Travelers with a high Soch are the cream of their civilizations and may be well known on their world and possibly across vast swaths of charted space. However, while the Third Imperium maintains a system of nobility recognized across most of its worlds, not everyone with a high Soch necessarily has a noble title, or is even a noble at all. Nobles of very high rank have many duties and obligations that may preclude them from a life of adventure. After all, a typical duke will reign over many worlds, and travelers will generally want to explore the universe, rather than be engaged in constant administration. So your noble titles at 11, you get a possible title of Knight, 12, Baron, 13, Marquis, 14, Count, and 15, Duke. My son Adam rolled up his character. He's on one of my current campaign that I didn't develop the character for. He and I did a session 0, and I wish we'd recorded it because he kept rolling all these situations that gave him higher and higher Soch. I made him stop at a 14 as an admiral in the Imperial Fleet. I made him stop at a 14, and anytime he got anything else that added to his Soch, I let him pick a stat that it went to. I know that's not in the rules, but I had to stop the guy. He was about to have a higher Soch than the Emperor. We couldn't have that. If the group includes a traveler with high Soch, we recommend one of the following courses. Son, daughter, or distant relative relations to a named noble that may carry great deal of social weight without actually having the title themselves, although they may well inherit depending on how far down the line of succession they are. So if they're You know, the first son of a sector duke, yeah, he's going to be an important guy. First daughter of a sector duke. The traveler may well be a high-ranking noble, but has been deposed or otherwise ousted from their position. Perhaps they will someday regain their seat, or maybe they will spend the rest of their life trying to escape those who remove them. And Soch need not be tied to nobility. Celebrities will also command a high score on this characteristic. A traveler's career might point the way to why a Soch is so high, perhaps a war hero or famous writer. However, it is possible that the traveler is simply known for being known, much like celebrities in our own world. If a title is desired, the noble's title table provides a suitable link between specific noble titles and Soch, and that's the chart I just looked at. The reason I think Soch is kind of a superstat is you can push your weight around a lot in a lot of situations, and it lends tremendously to role-playing, especially if you have a situation where people just don't know the character, if they're not as famous as they think they are. I have Soch be a very mutable kind of thing. If you are a starship captain, your Soch is let's say it's a 12. You've got a high Soch and you're a starship captain. Everybody aboard your ship knows your captain, and they're going to be very interested in your Soch standing. They're going to respect it. But when you get to that planet that you haven't been to before and they don't know you, they're not going to care who you are, and your Soch is not going to carry the weight necessarily that it did aboard your ship or amongst the Imperial Navy. That can be an interesting role-playing opportunity where you have a captain who's used to everybody jumping when he says jump, and yet you get down to a planet where the planetary rulers are not part of the Imperium, you're on the fringe, and they say, no, we don't care about you. So I will often do a functional Soch. I'll just have my players note it down, that when you first get to a planet and you're unknown and such, people may not care about your Soch. But it may be important to do kind of a functional Soch, just in case I have to interact with that. So I will have Soch as kind of a dual class sometimes, depending on when you're in your bailiwick and when you're outside of it. It can lead to some really dynamic role-playing. Now, do not underestimate intelligence or education. Intelligence is, of course, your native intelligence. You're going to go ahead and be really, really smart, and you're going to be able to figure stuff out fast, and you'll grow your character along the intellectual lines. And to that, you need a decent education. You don't need one to necessarily be higher or lower than the other. It really depends on how the dice go and how your character works out. Again, for rolling characteristics, you can either, you roll 2 dice 6 and you can put them in any order you want, or you may assign them as they are listed. In other words, you start with strength, then go down dex, then endurance, then intellect, education, and social standing. So it's which way you want to roll is up to you. I find that the mental stuff in Traveler tends to have a little bit more importance than the physical, until you're in a firefight, of course. But again, it depends on the character you're building and what you want to accomplish with the character. And this is something that you have to decide fairly early in the character genesis. If you're rolling your dice and you have pretty good rolls, you now have to allocate those, and you've got to decide kind of a general direction for your character. And a good way to do that is go ahead into the Traveler creation, what you're going to be doing, and deciding how you're going to have that, and then you're going to take a look at your skills. I can't find the skills right now. Here we go, skills and tasks. You're going to want to take a look at that. As part of your Traveler creation also, you're going to want to look at what career you might want to get into. So I'm going to take a look at one that's very popular. My table, the Navy. In the Navy. Got you with physical last time, got me with in the Navy this time. In the Navy, to sign up, you have to have an intellect roll of 6 or up, and you get, so if you have a high intelligence, you're going to get a nice mod on that. To get a commission, you need to roll a Soch 8 or greater. So the better your Soch, you get a modifier, you have a better chance at it. And the interesting thing about the Navy is, and this is how my son Adam got so ridiculously high in Soch so fast, is he ended up as a captain, which gives you a Soch 10 or Soch +1, whichever is higher. And then he made Admiral, Soch 12 or Soch +1, whichever is higher. It was ridiculous how fast his Soch grew. And of course, in personal development, Soch is a number 6. So there's a lot of different things that these can open for you. So the mental characteristics are as important, if not slightly more important, than the physical ones. And some of this too is going to depend on how much you're leaning into combat. If you're going into a game where you're all going to be murder hobos who've been playing D&D, and you've decided you're going to be a murder hobo in space, definitely dump into the physical stats. You're going to need them. If, however, you're looking to just play a space character, then you're going to need a nice mix of both, and maybe a little bit leaning more toward your mental characteristics than anything else. But let me know what you think. Have you used the mental characteristics to great effect, or has it been a disaster for your character? And how do you play Soch? Do you mess around with it, or do you let it just kind of be what it always is? The captain's always got a Soch 12, no matter where he goes. That can be an interesting dynamic too. So however you choose to play it, that's up to you. Leave some comments below. Let me know how you do it. If there's any differences in how you play that what I've said. I know there are alternate rules to some of this stuff. That's not what I'm looking at today. So there you go. That's a look at the mental characteristics on page 121. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Tell your friends. Take a look at the Patreon. See if you can help me out there. And I'll see you next time on page 121.